If you saw the most recent video on how to shampoo the couch, even in between and get in between those seat cushions, you'll know that I mentioned that one of our beagle doggies got very sick recently with pancreatitis. And just to prevent this from happening to anybody else, I want to give you some information today to protect your dog so that this doesn't happen to you, especially if you have chickens or ducks outside. Hi everybody, welcome back to Sawdust and Cornbread. I'm Laura Lee. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I try to put out new content every week. So recently we had some really cold weather here in our part of Virginia, like sub-freezing. It's below zero. It is very unusual for us to have that. But it went on for about 2 days, maybe 2.5 days, where the temperatures were low enough that I actually had to put a heating lamp in the duck house. I was afraid that they would get super cold in there, and that's something I typically don't do. You don't want to put heat in your duck house because it can cause them to kind of get clammy in there. And then when they go out into the yard to graze and to play in their pond and whatever, they can get frostbite on their feet. It's a lot better if you let them acclimate naturally. Well, when it gets to -11 with wind chill outside, I do put a little extra heating lamp in their house just to make sure they're going to be safe through the night. Then in the morning, I turn that off, let the house gradually cool off so they can acclimate before I let them out, so they don't get frostbite on their feet. Well, during the whole sub-freezing weather, I also during the day made them a nice place on our back porch. I spread out some hay so they would have a nice warm place to lay down. And I put their food and water right under the window there by our patio so that I could access it easily. Wouldn't have to go through because it had snowed and the snow had ice on top of it, and there's a little decline to get to their house, and I was afraid I would slide, so I just brought them closer to the house where they would be warmer and I could access their food and water more easily. And during the course of that, somehow some water got into their feeder and their food froze into a block. So when I went to let them out the next morning, I saw their food was frozen. I wanted to give them fresh food. Without even thinking about it, I took their feeder, turned it upside down, and pretty much emptied this chunk of ice with frozen duck feed in it out on the patio, and just thought, well, later on today it'll thaw out. They can eat that and finish it off later. And I completely forgot about it. Filled up their feeder, let the ducks out. They played on the back porch on the hay. They loved their little cozy area. I gave them some fresh vegetables and fruit to snack on. Apparently, it stayed frozen for a while, and I completely forgot it was there. When it did finally thaw out, the beagles found it. Specifically, our smallest beagle. Those noses get them into a lot of trouble, and she found this nice mound of wet duck food that I had forgotten about. It was probably congealed into a solid by then, and proceeded to eat the whole thing. And if you know beagles and their noses, they get into all kinds of trouble. She also decided to devour some of the hay that was on the porch, as well as some of the duck excrement. They do that all the time. It's disgusting, but it's a beagle thing. They will eat anything and everything. Didn't even think much of it. Like I said, I forgot the frozen duck food was out there until I woke up in the morning and that little beagle, our smallest beagle, had just gotten very sick all over the couch, in between the cushions. I figured out by then she must have gotten into some duck food. And then I remembered there was this huge clod of duck food out there I'd forgotten about. She was still drinking water, so I didn't take her to the vet right away because she wasn't dehydrated. But then as the days went on, she was not going to the bathroom the way that she normally would. Like nothing. She was peeing, but not the other. And I was concerned that she had a blockage. She hadn't vomited anymore, but she also hadn't gone number 2 anymore. And she was just getting very weak and lethargic. So of course I took her to the vet. And they were thinking, like I was thinking, there must be a blockage in there somewhere. So they examined her. They said her stomach was very hard and distended. And they did x-rays and everything came out clear. She was completely clear. Absolutely nothing in there from her throat to her rectum. Nothing. She was empty, squeaky clean. And so she hadn't been going to the bathroom because there was nothing in her, because when she got sick, she literally cleaned everything out of her system. I knew it was a massive amount, but I didn't realize to what extent. So what they determined, we did try to give her a little bit of food, came straight back out. What they determined was that she had what's called pancreatitis. Basically, in her case, what happened was the duck food is so rich, so nutrient rich, specifically for the ducks to keep them good and healthy. It was too much for the dog, for her digestive tract. And so her pancreas went into overdrive and started excreting juices. And I don't understand the whole science behind it, but basically the duck food almost, or could have, killed our dog in that large quantity that she ate. And the pancreas and her whole digestive system were acting crazy, and she could not take, just literally was unable to process any food, even her food. The vet gave her some really good nausea meds, and he did say there was a chance that there could be a blockage so small that it didn't show up and he couldn't read it on his side of things. He would have to send it off to a radiologist. So the plan was, he gave her this nausea medicine, and he said this will stop vomiting for absolutely everything in a dog except for a blockage. If she takes this medicine and still vomits, there is a blockage, and we're going to need to send these off to a radiologist, do some more further testing, because there could be a very small blockage that I'm not able to see. So that was really scary. It was touch and go there for a while. He did put her on a diet of chicken and rice, boiled chicken breasts and rice for a few days, and we just gave her maybe a tablespoon at a time, and she did not even want to eat that. She was still just feeling terrible, poor little thing. She was pitiful. Slowly over time, we were able to get her to eat just a little bit more chicken. I was feeding her a little bit of that boiled chicken by hand at a time, and it was staying down. Thank God. We were so thankful that the medicine was working, that her digestive system was calming down and allowing her to get some nourishment. And so for about a week, we went through this process, and then finally, I laid my hands on her and prayed, and I did feel like a pop in her stomach, and she got a funny look on her face. And it was like from that moment on, and I prayed, God, please heal her. And by this night, let her be playing and running around and having a good time and back to her old self. And sure enough, after whatever that was inside of her popped, I have no idea what that was, and she got the funny look on her face. By that evening, she was jumping up on the furniture, which she would not. We had to carry her around, lay her up on the couch, carry her to her water or bring water to her until that point. And by that evening, she was begging me to take her on a walk. I took her on a walk. She was playing and running around like nothing had ever happened, for real. So she is completely better now. She's still a little bit sore, I think, just from the vomiting and just muscle soreness, and just felt kind of yucky. But she's jumping and playing and everywhere. But I wanted to put this out there just in case any of you guys have ducks or chickens outside like we do. As a precaution, keep those dogs out of that food, because it can literally kill your dogs. Their digestive system isn't suited for it, and especially beagles or any kind of hounds, those noses lead them into all kinds of trouble. They're not going to discriminate against food or anything edible, or maybe sometimes things that aren't even edible. So just be sure to separate that and not leave it where they have access. Up until this point, we have left the gate between the duck pen and where we let them be free in the backyard and play in the yard. We have always left that gate open, and I noticed every now and then the dogs would sneak over and get into their feeder, the duck feeder, and I would just yell at the dogs and they would come back. Now I keep that gate securely closed. Whenever I have the ducks grazing in the backyard, playing out there, I have that gate securely closed between our yard and the feeder, so the dogs can't get to that. Now, I know some of you are thinking, how can you let your dogs, your beagles, out free with these ducks? And if you look back at the videos when we first got the ducks last year, I documented like the first 30 days. Though we had our beagles with the ducklings from the moment they came out of the little box where they had just hatched and come to the store. So they actually mothered and protected them from ducklings until the point that they're ducks now. So the dogs respect them. The beagles actually make a wide swath around the ducks. Like, I'm not even gonna mess with you. And if a cat or something comes close, the dogs let me know that the ducks are in danger. So it's kind of cool. They're like, I don't know, it's like a maternal instinct with our beagles. I would not just let the beagles loose with ducks that they had not been around, because they might chase them down, and I still keep an eye. Now, our Chihuahua is a little more brave. He doesn't give the ducks as much respect as the beagles do. He's never gone after them per se, but he will get in their space. And the funny thing is, the ducks are bigger than our little big Chihuahua. He's a Chihuahua Cavalier mix. And at this point, the ducks are a little bit bigger, and they will charge after our Chihuahua mix if he's getting too close to them. So they kind of take care of themselves when it comes to the other dog. But that's why we are able to allow our dogs and our ducks in the same yard at the same time, because they grew up together, and the beagles respect the ducks. What can I say? It's pretty cool. So please take this to heart. If you have chickens or ducks outside, be sure to keep your dogs out of that food, because this could have turned out a whole lot worse. Thank goodness she's fine now. Everybody's happy and healthy. And I hope you guys are doing great. I will be back soon with another home DIY video. And I also have my Panic Attacks podcast. And if you haven't done so, go to sawdustandcornbread.com and check out the blog. I have pages of all kinds of awesome DIYs, home improvement ideas, cleaning tips that you can just go through all of those pages. There's lots of good stuff. I've been working on the website. I hope I have it looking good for you. So until next time, I hope you have a blessed day. See you next time. God bless. If this is your first time as a guest on the channel today, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I try to put out new material every week.